a lot of people have a monologue in their head that's saying things like, should I say this, or why is that person wearing those shoes, or maybe I shouldn't do this. I think that not having that in a monologue has freed me up from the fear of failure. My name is Daniel Hulme, and I do three things actually. So the first thing I do is for the past 4 years, I've been running a master's program, degree program in UCL, which is one of the world's leading universities in artificial intelligence. And I have about 100 students every year that go out there and apply emerging technologies and AI to solve problems in industry. And I'm now entrepreneur in residence for UCL. So I help them take deep technology and figuring out how can we have a big impact on the world with that deep technology. And I do that stuff for fun. My day job is running a company called Satalia, which I founded about 12 years ago. And it builds AI solutions for some of the biggest companies in the world. And the other thing I do is I get to travel the world educating politicians, future business leaders, academics, investors about the impact of technology on society and what the world could look like and will look like in the next 20, 30 years. But my day job really is running this 100-person company. And my job really is to try to keep everybody happy. My customers happy, my employees happy, my partners happy, my suppliers happy. My job is to make sure that everybody's happy. As companies transition through different phases, your company looks very different as a 10-person company versus a 40-person company versus 100. And I'm sure that my company will go through even more phases, and my role in that organization will change over time. So historically, I used to be able to sit down with everybody in the organization and talk to them and understand what their career aspirations are and make sure that we were aligning what we were doing in the organization with what their values and their needs are. As the organization has got bigger, that's been more difficult for me to take care of. So I've had to bring people on to take on those responsibilities. And as you bring people on to take your roles, the organization, the culture, the DNA of the company changes. And so that transition is quite tough. But my day job, and this is not to be really underestimated, is there's this phrase which is it takes 10 years to create an overnight success. And I think that people have this idea that raising capital and building a company in 3 years and selling it for millions of pounds is success. And actually what I think success takes a lot longer. And it's taken 10 years to get Satalia where it is. And success for me is making sure that we're having the biggest positive impact in the world. And so my job, my day job, is to try to figure out how can I make sure that all of these resources that we have, our capital, our money, our people, are optimized in a way that's maximizing that impact. So I spend most of my day is in meetings. So I spend 8 hours to 10 hours a day just talking to people, whether it be people inside the company or clients or potential clients. And I spend the remaining time in the evening and the weekends figuring out how to drive the company forward. So doing the deep thinking. And often when you're starting companies, you do have to work 80 hours a week to make it successful. When people say they want to be a CEO, I think there is I think a massive misconception about what CEOs do, and again, particularly at different stages of the company's journey. 80% of my job at the moment is dealing with people issues. It's not thinking about strategy. It's not coming up with the latest technology innovations. It's dealing with challenges that people have within the organization, and also trying to sell to clients. That's 80% of my job. And if I was to ask myself honestly, is that what I want to be spending my time doing? The answer is no. But that's what the company needs right now, and that's a sacrifice that you have to make. I was born in a relatively small poor town called Morecambe, which nobody will have heard of, but apparently it's ranked one of the worst towns in the UK. And my school was one of the worst schools also in the UK. I was brought up by my grandparents. I didn't know my father. My mother was an alcoholic, and so I wasn't really very nurtured as a child, and nor was I nurtured at school. The school was pretty poor. And I always had a sense of curiosity. I was always curious about how the world works, what it means to be human, and I wasn't afraid of putting in the hard work to really understand how to answer those questions. The first two, I guess, characteristics I think are important is curiosity, and then I guess creativity. It's how do you go deep. Then the other two characteristics that I think are valuable are being considerate of other people, so being kind to other people, and the other one is courageous, so challenging the status quo and doing things that are outside your comfort zone. And I think one of the characteristics I have is I'm not scared of anything. I don't care about what people think about me. I don't care about making mistakes. I really have no concern about what the consequences of my actions. I feel like I want to do things that are good and that are making a positive impact, and I don't care about failure. And actually, quite strangely, and maybe you'll end up cutting this out, but I realized in my early 30s that a lot of people have a monologue in their head. They have a dialogue, a voice in their head that's saying things like, should I say this, or why is that person wearing those shoes, or maybe I shouldn't do this. They have this in a monologue, and I don't. And there actually are people that don't have that inner monologue. Their brain is just empty, and I think that inner monologue can sometimes hold people back. It can stop people from doing things that they should be doing. I think it also can be beneficial because it helps you consider things and make considered decisions, which I certainly don't always make. But I think that not having that inner monologue has freed me up from the fear of failure, and it's given me the courage, I guess, to pursue things even though they're risky. So yeah, courageous is absolutely important, a characteristic. But I think it stems to not caring about what other people think about you. So the first piece of advice is that developing engineering skills, so learning how to code, all of this kind of stuff is actually it's a very good discipline. So when you learn engineering, you learn also how to identify failure points. So this isn't just a kind of a happy path, the thing that's going to be successful, but where are all of the ways this can go wrong? And that makes you also think more logically, think more critically. So developing engineering skills is, I think, really, really important. And by learning how to code, for example, and design sites and build software, that actually forces you into an engineering mindset. So how do you orchestrate complex systems to build solutions? So orchestration, engineering, architecting is, I think, a super skill. The other super skill, I think, is orchestrating people, so that you can go, be very technical and bring different technologies together to alleviate frictions and to solve problems. But you also need to, if you're a leader, you need to be able to orchestrate people, and that means connecting with them emotionally, being authentic, being genuine, having credibility. And that is also a different set of skills that you can learn from books and from experience and all of that good stuff. So orchestration, for me, whether it's technologies or people, are two very, very important skills. And if you can combine them, then you're in an incredibly good position. The second thing I would say is that as you get older and you get more experience and understanding about the world, you realize how little you know. So if you'd have spoken to people 5 years ago that we might be living in a simulation, people would have thought that you were crazy. But the more that we know about the universe, the little we actually do really understand about how this thing works. We don't even know what time and space is. We really have very, very little understanding about what's going on. So and one of the things that will help you in understanding what you don't know is by surrounding yourself by people that have experience. And if a genie came to you and said, you have one wish, what you typically would default to wishing for is wishing for more wishes, because then you're in good shape. And so if I was to give you one piece of advice, my advice would be to get as much advice as possible, because there's a wealth of knowledge out there, and you will make mistakes.